Wiz Khalifa's album, new album, Rolling Papers 2, just dropped this past Friday. I'm gonna break it down real quick. I honestly think it's one of his best projects in a minute. But I'll start by just kind of going over Wiz Khalifa and what's gotten him up to this project. I guess you would consider it his sixth studio album. But he started back in '06. He kind of got recognition within the South, I think, working with Currency when they dropped How Fly in '09. Then he came out with Cushion Orange Juice, which is what I believe is his best project he's ever put out in 2010. From that point on, he focused on sort of gaining more commercial success. He put out Rolling Papers 1 album in 2011. He had some hit songs on there, like Black and Yellow. He had Roll Up, and then also I think Wiz proved to be somewhat of an influential person within rap at that point, because he came out from the jump pretty much talking, like having weed raps. Now, I'm not saying he was the first rapper to do that, but within the time and, you know, him having videos and having a lot of weed within the videos and him just always kind of rapping about it. No one was really doing that at the time, so he definitely kind of influenced that. And then back in the day in 2011 when he dropped the Rolling Papers album, he did have like that kind of fro-ish thing with the blonde patch. A lot of guys started rocking that. And then also a lot of guys, you know, took his style with rapping about weed excessively. But then, you know, he went on to put out other projects, but he definitely started to lose steam because the music that he was known for, he wasn't necessarily putting out anymore. He kind of gone mainstream. He wasn't really appealing to his original audience, I should say. But in 2014, he came out with Black Hollywood. He had Weed and Boys on there, so that was a hit. So he continued to prove that he could make hits, even with 2015 being on that Fast and Furious song, See You Again. That was the highest selling song of 2015, with selling around 21 million units. And then for a certain point in 2017, it was the highest viewed video on YouTube. He always shown that he's been able to make hits, but I just think some of his last projects have not been that great. This album has 25 songs. Also, it's around an hour and 30 minutes, so similar to the Drake project that just came out in length and the amount of songs. However, the songs weren't as great as what I saw on Drake's album. The album kind of dragged on, and I feel like there were certain parts where songs shouldn't be on albums, but I'll kind of go through the list, but I definitely feel like he could have trimmed the fat on this album. He did a little press before the release. He went on Big Boy's radio show and he said that this will somewhat be like a reintroduction to him. So as I stated before, you know, he kind of strayed away from the music he was putting out, which got him all the fame that he has now. And so I think this album is somewhat kind of addressing that. And then even listening to it, I can definitely say there's a lot of nostalgic feels. Sledgerin is all over the production of this album. He did a lot of music with him when he was coming up, back when he did Cushion Orange Juice, and also when he was doing like mixtapes like Taylor Alderite. It was definitely cool hearing him work with Sledgerin again. I personally believe Wiz's best like studio album he put out was ONIFC, Only Nigga in First Class. This project, Rolling Papers 2, is the best project he's put out probably since ONIFC, if I'm being honest. That came out in the fall of 2012. But I'll start by just running through the list of songs, starting with the first track, Hot Now. A very good beat, nice intro feel and vibe to it, leading in to the Ocean song, which I feel is a very good song. I'm not sure if I would have put it second on this album, but it has a really good beat. It sounds like it has Cardo production, which is really cool because Wiz did a lot of production with Cardo back in the day as well. So it's definitely a chill type of song, back about, you know, the things he used to talk about with smoking weed and stuff, and which he's always, you know, kind of talked about, but he's putting it back in the delivery of which kind of got him popular. This Ocean song is definitely cool, definitely had a good vibe. Leading into the third song, Blue Hundreds, which I think is funny because over the last couple of weeks, you know, Future's put out a project called Beast Mode 2. On that, he had Rax Blue, and then the week prior to that, Drake had put out the album Scorpion, which had blue tint. So everybody's got this blue stuff going on. Wiz's blue version or rendition, probably the least impressive out of the other options. But on this song, he has Jimmy Wapo, rest in peace. Also, Hardo. Both of those guys are from Pittsburgh. A Pittsburgh record, you could say. However, it's a forgettable track on the album. Leading into Very Special, The hook on this track is very redundant. You guess from the title, he's saying special a lot, which he does within the song. Wiz is definitely rapping back in the style that's reminiscent of what made him popular, a no simping type of attitude. Very special, definitely. It's an okay song. Going into Going Hard, which could be somewhat of a twerk song. The next song, Holyfield. Throughout that song, another repetitive hook. You know, he's saying he's the real deal, Holyfield. Him and his squad are legit and real, and that's kind of the premise or the base of the song. The album title track, Rolling Papers 2. Now, this is definitely a high point within the album. I definitely think that it would have been appropriate for this track or maybe one other track to be the outro, but within here you can definitely hear growth. Wiz Khalifa from where he started to where he is now, and him, you know, somewhat acknowledging that. One line that kind of stuck out to me was him saying, you know, tired of these girls, we all fucking the same ones. So, you know, that's kind of acknowledging, you know, the lifestyle that he's taking on as basically a worldwide pop star. Maybe he wants to move his life in a new direction as he's like entering his 30s and stuff. But I definitely feel like this was a really good song. Mr. Williams, I feel like this was also another high point within the album. He has this new group or duo, the Moonlight, featured on this song, and they're kind of featured throughout the entire album. Never heard of them before. Apparently they're an R&B identical twin group. Wiz just kind of picked them up and threw them on this project. Sledgren is on this beat. It's a really hard beat. We also have a Currency feature, and you know, they have an interesting relationship considering, you know, they started doing music back together in 2009, and here we are at 2018, and every time they get together, they really produce a good track, more so than not. So they did it again with this song. I feel personally that Currency brings the best out of Wiz, like, cause you know, sometimes Wiz goes astray and doesn't necessarily stick to a style of music that works best for him. Also, the second half of this song is different from the first half. The Moonlight is singing the hook. They almost sound like a diet version of The Weeknd, but they did a good job executing this song, I feel like. But on the second half of the song, Wiz's verse are kind of like chopped and screwed, like Houston style. Shout out to DJ Screw. So I definitely thought that was a nice element to the song. The track was almost like 6 minutes and 30 seconds, I believe. So it was definitely the longest song on the entire album. One of the better songs on the album. Leading into the next song, Penthouse, which he has Snoop Dogg on there. He formed his relationship back with him in 2011, or maybe a little bit before that, but that's when they released their joint project together with that album and movie. And then they had that song together with Bruno Mars, which was a hit. Snoop Dogg, you know, somewhat gave Wiz Khalifa the stamp. At that time, Wiz was still relatively new within the game. He kind of just broke onto the national scene maybe a year or two before then. So with the Snoop Dogg collaboration, definitely put a stamp on Wiz, like, you know, he's legit. I've definitely heard them do way better songs than this, so, you know, it was nice to have Snoop on the album, but I don't think that this is one of the better songs on here. Leading into the next song, Real Rich with Gucci Mane. It's a short song, 2 minutes. It definitely has a trap vibe on this song, which I guess you can say is in respect to Gucci Mane, but with it being a little over 2 minutes, you know, I felt like it was almost a waste of time. The Boosie Bello song, this one definitely has an old school 70s vibe with the beat. So that's probably influenced by the Funkadelic legend Bootsy Collins, which probably led to the track being called Bootsy Bellows. But this definitely has a smoking vibe to it. As you know, Wiz's claim to fame is, you know, the weed rap, so this definitely has that type of vibe. Hopeless Romantic after that with Sway Lee. We all know Sway Lee as the harmonizing hook, so he comes in and assists him on this one with a little Young Chop production. This track definitely feels like it's intended for, you know, commercial purposes. Wiz has proven that he can make hit songs, so he probably has somewhat of a quota to try to put hit songs on his project, so I can see this being an attempt. However, I'm not sure if it'll actually hit like that. Late Night Messages is the song leading or coming in after Hopeless Romantic. Definitely a song for the ladies. It's somewhat reminiscent to me to the On IFC Up In It. I think that's the title. Definitely reminds me of that. Definitely talking about, basically having sex with his girl or whatever, whichever girl he's messing with at the time. So that's kind of why it reminds me of Up in It. Also, I think Ty Dolla $ign would have been perfect on this song, like throwing in some harmonies or something like that, ad libs. I think a touch of Ty Dolla could have took this song to the next level, but it's a cool track. The next song I would say is better than Late Night Messages, which is Rain. It kind of starts off like All the Way Up and has that sample looped throughout that track. You hear the trumpets in the background at the beginning of All the Way Up. That's how the beginning of the song is, and it kind of flows into the entire track. Sledgeman is on this beat as well, and Cardo. So it's nice to have Cardo on this album as well, kind of bringing back the nostalgic feel of what made people become a fan of Wiz Khalifa. Also, Wiz had a nice verse on this, and we had a very good and appropriate Party Next Door feature. So I definitely feel like this was a really good song. I think it could have been enhanced with a Quavo or a Travis Scott third verse on the song, which could have even made it a little bit longer, but still could have made it bigger. Yeah, a nice track. The next one will be Karate and Never Hesitate. It's like a dual track into one. I can hear 808 Mafia on the beat. It's definitely got a banger beat from the beginning with the Karate side. That also has Chevy Woods on it as well, and they kind of trade bars back and forth, going in about like women and how they love them and how they dog them out, like trading bars on that and stuff. The second half of this song with Never Hesitate has a feature on here from Darius Wilrich. His feature was nice. He comes in and sings a little bit and provides some nice vocals. Overall, I feel like this song was pretty good. The next song, For Real, I want to kind of group this one, which has Little Skies. Throughout the song, it's repeatedly hearing of Real For Real, I'm in the field for real. It's a very repetitive song. Good high energy track. But I want to grab that. The next song, King, which has Wiz, kind of flexing on. And then Gin and Drugs, which has a problem feature and a very 90s California-esque beat. So you can kind of hear like those synthesizers that I think Dr. Dre made really popular all throughout that song. And then I want to grab the 420 freestyle, which had a Mike Will Made It produced beat, where Wiz is just flowing and doing a freestyle, which I feel like he totally wastes because he could have made this a really good song. It's a Mike Will Made It beat. Mike Will Made It beats always have the potential to become a hit, so I think he could have formulated a song off that track rather than just a freestyle. But those 4 tracks, I feel, could have been taken off the album, considering those 25 songs. I think a total of like 7 or 8 could have been taken off, but definitely those 4. I feel like the album started to drag on at that point. But then we got to the Be Okay song, which was definitely a high point throughout the album because Wiz was being definitely open and vulnerable on this track. Once the song starts, it has like a real inspirational feel, almost like a church influence with the pianos. And then he's talking about his plight to success within the first verse. Also within the second verse, he's addressing, how his relationship with Amber Rose kind of unraveled. A breakout line to me within this song is when he said, when you said you felt single, I remember like it was yesterday, how the fuck you hold me down when you didn't take my last name. So I feel like, I didn't even know that Amber Rose never, took Wiz Khalifa's last name. I can't even remember his last name. I know his first name is Cameron, but I don't know his last name. But that's very interesting to hear him say that and acknowledge that hurt him a little bit. Going into the third verse, he kind of talks about someone, I guess, close to him who passed away and just reminiscing on that. This was a very open and vulnerable track from Wiz. I really liked it. It was just a real track. It's On You. Nice follow-up to the Be Okay track, which is, a very open and real song. But It's On You is like more so talking about taking accountability. On the hook, Wiz is singing and saying, you can blame anyone but basically it's on you, and that's kind of how the chorus goes. And you can achieve your dreams by just focusing on what you want to do and don't follow others. Be original. Wiz mentions throughout this album a couple of times about how people have kind of taken his style, which I can honestly say has transpired. It's a little bit different, but I can definitely say that Wiz influenced a culture or some people that came behind him in the rap game. The Reach to the Stars was supposed to be a high point, as it has a Bone Thugs and Harmony feature with all of the members throughout the song, but it's almost like a repeat of It's On You, or a different version of that song, and I was just ready for it to be over, honestly. This song felt like it was one of those songs where Wiz kind of just throws somebody on there because he's a fan of them and he's always wanted to work or collaborate with them. I think he did that on ON IFC as well with Cameron. Like, that's kind of a weird feature for Wiz Khalifa to have. But he's done that a couple of times, even having Too Short on the Rolling Papers album. It's a Wiz move, but it's an inspirational track, but I just didn't enjoy it. Going into the All of a Sudden song, Moonlight, aka Diet Weekend, is featured on this song again. It sounds like a Caribbean dance song, maybe Drake influence, who knows? Definitely sounds reminiscent of that era Drake was in with the Views project and kind of the More Life project. The song after that has Moonlight again, Sledgehammer production. At this point, I was just waiting to get to the end of the album, which I saw had a Ty Dolla $ign feature, which is the song Something New. So I was excited to finally get to the Ty Dolla $ign feature, as you know, Ty Dolla $ign is part of Wiz's group Taylor Gang. It wasn't that impressive considering Ty Dolla $ign has been across the music scene, from Kanye to Beyonce and Jay-Z to even Future. Considering they're in-house together, I think they could have made a better song, especially if Wiz is gonna put it at the end, be the outro track. He must not believe in, you know, having a formula with the outro track, because at the end it felt weird. The album wasn't cohesive in a sense because it just came to an abrupt end after this like R&B type song, which had no correlation with the feel of the album, seeing as that the feel of the album was more so like, you know, Wiz rapping back on his Taylor Gang stuff, not having too many commercial songs, but more so having a nostalgic feel with the Sledgehammer and Cardo produced beats, which was, you know, prevalent in the time when he first came out. I like the Ty Dolla $ign feature. I just feel like maybe Be Okay or Rolling Papers 2 should have been the last song on the album, because it could have brought some appropriate closure to the album rather than having it feel like it ended abruptly, which I felt it did. But I was ready for it to be over, as it was an hour and 30 minutes and 25 songs. Like I said before, I feel like he could have definitely trimmed this down between 7 or 8 tracks or so, brought it down to maybe right under an hour. If I had to grade this album, Rolling Papers 2, I would give it a solid 6. It has a lot of great tracks. He had a lot of great beats throughout the album, but also I feel like with it having so many songs, maybe that's where it kind of lost me at some points, and I felt like some of the songs were repeated, or, you know, he had similar messages within songs. If it was a little bit shorter, you know, it could have been a great project, like his ONIFC or even Cushion Orange Juice. I feel like those are his greatest projects. And Taylor Alderdice was pretty cool too, but I feel like those two were his greatest projects. He did a lot of other things throughout his career, from mixtapes and things of that nature. But I feel like Wiz needed this project just to kind of circle around and get back to, you know, what made him big in the beginning. So it was nice hearing this album. I definitely know I'm gonna add some of these tracks to my rotation. Definitely not all of it though. Giving it a 6, and happy to hear Wiz, you know, kind of back on what got him hot in the first place.